So I'm going to talk quickly about a little bit about some changes to Impact, which are coming up shortly. So that's our database software. And then I'm going to be concentrating on RiscOSM, the map software, and new developments that we've added to that lately. And hopefully I'm going to be demonstrating a few things which I've tried to demonstrate at the last show and the show before that, but couldn't because the internet connection didn't work. So fingers crossed we'll be able to do that as well. So first of all, Impact is a nice, easy to use relational database system. And a year ago, we added a new feature which allows us to import CSV files really easily. Impact has always been able to import CSV, but it used to be a bit of a hassle because you had to set things up in a rather complicated way. So I'm going to do an example of a CSV file of railway stations, which I got from a government website, I think. And I've just dropped it on the Impact icon there, and it has loaded up a table showing you all the data. So it's already worked out what format the CSV is, because of course CSV can vary quite a bit in terms of how it's defined, whether there's quotes around the fields and all that kind of thing. So this it's also worked out that the CSV started with a header row with field names. Now, we don't have to accept those field names if we don't want to use them in the database. So I'm going to accept most of this, actually. And for date and time, we're going to define the format that they've been entered in, so it can actually be a real date and time field rather than a string. This easting and northing we'll have as numbers. I'm slightly puzzled by this because I thought that it was actually meant to automatically work out what types of fields they all were. So I'm going to... Anyhow, the main purpose of this demo is just to show you that we can very easily import a number of fields, and it will lay them out. It will lay them out in the order that they appear. Any fields where I don't choose a field type, it will just throw away on import. We can decide we want the station name to be the first one imported. And I can also select records in the table by clicking or dragging, and choose only to import the selection of fields if I wish. So I'm going to import the records. It's warning me that there are 5 columns where I haven't actually decided where to put the data, and they'll be thrown out. And if I'm happy to continue loading, oh yeah, I've done this demo before. It's telling me a database called Railway Stations already exists. We're going to call it Railway Stations 2. And load it in. And as you can see, it has created a record card with everything nicely laid out. And I'd then be able to go in and edit the card and move stuff about if I wanted to. And if I wanted to change any of the labels, I could do that. Save the new design. So that was a feature we introduced a year ago, which is very helpful. And the new improvements we're working on right now are to do with security and encryption of data, because some folk are wanting to keep their data encrypted on disk now in connection with the General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR. I'm not sure you absolutely have to keep data encrypted. You have to keep it secure, which might mean locking it up. But if you want to keep it encrypted, we're going to be able to support that soon, probably within the next few weeks. But it needs a bit more testing before I can release that, because I've got to make sure it can be decrypted again successfully, otherwise you end up losing all your data. So I'm just going to close this database and we'll go inside Impact, where Impact keeps its data, just so you can see that the data is currently not encrypted. So there we are. Here is the data file, and you can see in there that there are various station names and so on, which you can see in plain text. So we'll open the database again, and I'm going to go to the database choices, and we're going to put password protection on using, right, so I'm going to choose a password I can really easily remember, like 1234. And then I save those choices. It's reformatting the data. It takes a little while depending on how big your database is. I'm going to close the database again and open the data file in ZAP. And you'll see it looks like a lot of gobbledygook. We'll open the database through Impact again. Now it's asking me for the password. And look, it can read it again, and we've got it out. So that's working. Needs more testing. It will be released fairly soon, I hope. If there are any people who are interested in helping testing it, then I'd love to hear from you. Another nice feature we've added is you can, thinking about security of data when it's on screen. Oh, I didn't need to do that. Database choices. You can set a choice to blank record cards if the database isn't being used. That can be done globally or database by database. So I've just changed it here to say if the database isn't being used, then after 5 seconds, clear the card from the screen. So if I forget to clear a customer's details from the screen on the stand, then it will clear itself after 5 seconds, and it'll go to the version of the card where you're entering a new record. So that's another nice little feature. Could get very irritating if you're not in that situation, but of course you can turn it on or off globally or at the database level. So that was all for Impact, and the rest of the stuff I want to talk about is for RiscOSM. So in October at the London show, we released a new version of RiscOSM which handles contours. And that was initially just doing Great Britain with Ordnance Survey data. But now we've converted quite a lot of Western Europe using NASA data, which you can download or you can buy from our stand on an SD card. So I'm going to go to, look for the cliffs of Moher in Ireland. And you'll notice it wasn't actually bringing up any, oh, hang on, wait a minute. I have a feeling that it doesn't know where the data is. Yes, we've got no data sets at the moment because this machine is not set up the way we normally have things set up. So I better just go and find lots of lovely data. I think that will probably do. Right, okay. So, oh, I go to Hoy in Orkney. So here is part of Hoy, which is one of the islands in Orkney, and you'll see that we have a lot of contours. So this map, I mean, the countryside is fairly empty around there, but this map, before we got the contours, would have looked like that. So it's quite a stark difference in terms of the amount of detail and the information you're getting with and without the contours. Just to give another example, we can go to, I don't know, somewhere like, switch data to preferably somewhere that has hills rather than. So this is part of France, and we should be getting some French contour data appearing, though I'm just slightly worried. Possibly I haven't. Yeah, no, I'm afraid I haven't got the bench console data here. That's on a different machine. I don't know. We'll go back to Ireland and go to Galway. So the Great Britain data comes from the Ordnance Survey, but for Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland and other parts of Europe, we're using NASA data, which was created using a remote sensing thing where they sent a space shuttle up in about 1999 or thereabouts, and had a great big 60-meter aerial sticking out the back, and they did kind of triangulation in order to get the heights of lots of parts of the world. So you'll see here we've got some contours appearing. And we've now got some new features related to the contours. For quite a while, you've been able to trace routes on the screen, on the map. So I'm going to just start down here in the city and walk along this road and come up here. We'll walk up there. So I could save that in my pins and tracks area. If I click with menu over the route and go to the animate window, we can then show the track information. And this gradient profile that we're getting here at the bottom is based on the contour data which is in the map. That's a new feature fairly recently. I think actually was uploaded to our website sometime in March. We've had gradient profiles for tracks recorded using GPS devices for some time. So if you have a GPS device or a smartphone that records a GPX file, then you can load that onto RiscOSM and it will show you the elevation data that is recorded by the GPS system. But if you just trace the route on the map, we're now able to get a similar representation from the contours on the map. And while we're at it, another very small little feature we just added is an improvement to the styles. So I'm just going to change the style to red so that you can see it all a bit more clearly. So here's the here is the route, and one of our users suggested a couple of weeks ago that it would be quite useful to be able to have arrows on these routes so you could see which direction you went to go. So we've just added, just for this release today, an arrow feature. You probably need a slightly bigger dash to make sure there's a gap between them, thinking about it. Let me just alter that. Dash style 16:16 would be better. Right. So then you can put arrows on your map. It would probably look better now if I change the thickness down to something a little bit thinner again. So some of the things I wanted to demonstrate which we've not been able to before because the internet connection wasn't working, I will have a go at now. So you may not know, may not have realized, but as well as being able to search the place name index by typing in the name box, you can actually also use an online tool to find stuff on the web. And not only can it search for places, but you can also ask it for example, pubs in Galway. You can ask it to locate them. And it's a service called Nominatim, which is part of OpenStreetMap. It's found me 10. I can fetch a few more, select all of them, show on the map, and the map's redrawn, and the pins will be put on to show where all these pubs are. They're all down there. Let's just zoom in. Whoops, wait a minute. Yeah, that's working. So we can then hover over the pins to show more information, or I can go to the pins and tracks window, and you'll see there we've got the information about these. So Murty Rabbits, 23 Foster Street, Town Parks, Garvey's Select Bar, Sally Long's, all of these different places. So that can be quite handy. So almost any feature you can think of on the map, whether it's cash machines or bus stops or churches or parks, you can do a little search like this, and it will come up with some results. You can paste a whole of an address in there as well if you wanted to. So that's one nice feature. Another one, I'll just move back over to somewhere closer to home. We'll go for York. Just going to go into York City Centre. Oops, I think I'm still drawing a walking route, which would be a bit hard to do all the way from Galway. Let's turn that off. Yes, there we are. Right, so here we are in York. Another online feature you can get, we've linked in with the Geograph service, which was a project which was to get a photograph of a single photograph of every grid square in Great Britain was the original aim. But they've kind of expanded a bit, there's more than one photo now. So you use this option, Find Web Photos, and it's going to find photos within 10 kilometres of the mouse pointer, maximum 15 to fetch. I'll just increase that a bit. And it will then show there's a whole load of photographs that people have taken and uploaded to the Geograph site. So we can hover over them and see what they are. We can Control-click and open the details in the Geograph website. Some of them are quite ordinary looking places, some of them are real landmarks. I was going to say that one's over a Sainsbury's, but it looks like it's actually a photo of something a little bit more distinguished. So that's a really nice little feature. And one of the things we're quite excited about is that recently the bounty, RiscOSM have started implementing one of the bounties, which is for stuff to do with the network stack and secure HTTP in the operating system. And because of that bounty, we will probably within a few weeks, it's likely to a new module will be released fairly soon, which will allow us to integrate not just with the Geograph service, which is a fairly little known service. We hope to be able to integrate with some other bigger names like Flickr, for example. And Flickr covers not just Great Britain and Germany, but obviously all around the world, and there are masses and masses of photos that people have submitted, mostly geolocated, and so we'll be able to get a whole load of photos coming in that way. And it can add quite a bit of life to the experience of exploring a map, because you can think, oh yes, there's an interesting sounding building there. What does that look like? And quite often you can find a picture. So it's quite a nice feature, that one, and we'll be able to extend it a lot more soon. Another little feature that is improved in terms of the place searching, we noticed when I was wanting to test conversion of South America, so I thought, well, I'll look for Buenos Aires. I started typing it in. I discovered there are an awful lot of places in South America called Buenos Aires, apart from the one that I'd heard of. And there was actually no way of typing anything extra to distinguish between them. Right, this is a bit of a gap. So just to take a British example, if you type in Newtown, you will find as if they are listed in order. Well, we're getting up to Newtown, Wigan by the end of it. Sorry, let me just go back to Newtown. So Newtown, we've got lots and lots of matches, and we've got up to Newtown, Swindon by the end. Once you've typed in a complete name which is matching exactly, it will start displaying only names which match that precisely, and we can then type in the comma and say, you know, Great Yarmouth, and we're now being limited down. We've now got Newtown, Great Yarmouth, Newtown, Salford, Greater Manchester, Newtown, Wigan, Greater Manchester, and so on. So this should allow you to be able to locate and open a map appropriately if it happens to be a really common name, just by typing a little bit of extra information on the end. So that's a very small feature. And then the other big thing which is coming along, Hilary thinks within a month or so, is the style editor. So we've had for quite a long time the ability to display the maps in different styles. So here is the normal style of map, and if I switch to, for example, the railway style, which we display, or there's a monochrome style, it will redisplay the map using a different style sheet. And the railway style makes electrified railway lines red and other ones black. It de-emphasizes the roads, so you've got them there for geographical context, but you know the railway lines stand out a lot more, and so on. So that was just one example of the type of thing you can do. Oh, I didn't mean to click that one. Detailed has a lot more detail on and takes a lot longer to load. Once we get to 100%, I'm going to switch it back again, I'm afraid. So the style editor, so we've always documented the style sheets, and if you read the manual, you'd have been able to go in and alter them about and change things, but it's a bit daunting because it's a specialized language and maybe a bit fiddly if you're just wanting to make some small changes to an existing style. So the new style editor is, we're hoping, going to make this a lot easier for people and allow you to save your own styles if you want to reuse them and share them with other people if you think they're interesting and worthwhile for other people to use. So it's accessed via the features window, which is the sort of key to the map. And on the features window, we've improved things a lot, so you can turn off whole sections of stuff very easily. But let me just take an example of the primary roads. So I'm going to select that there, and oh, you know what? I'm not running the right version. Sorry. Because this isn't the version we are really releasing. It's hidden away in another directory. So bear with me. We'll another go. Right. I'm going to go to somewhere where the okay. So here we've got an area of country, and we've got the features window open again. I'm going to go down to primary road, edit style. So the style editor shows you, for various different scales of map, what that feature would look like. So as you can see, if we go into really large scale maps, the roads get very wide indeed. Now the scale we're on at the moment is, just see, 1 in 40,000. And we're going to have a marker to show you what scale you're looking at. That's an idea we came up with today while trying to demonstrate this to people. We thought, hang on, which scale are we on? So we've got a colour for the type of road, and so we can very easily change to a different colour, make the roads a little bit more extraordinary, stand out. And I'll just reload the map, and you see we've now got bright purple main roads. We could choose farmland and say that the farmland, wait a minute, I think we should have a border around the farmland, which should be dark blue. Just redisplay, and possibly that feature doesn't work yet. Sorry, the trouble is that the yeah, it clearly doesn't work yet. we're about 4 weeks off from this being ready for release, I think. Hilary only started working on the style editor about 3 weeks ago, so it's come on a long way in that time. But it opens up a lot of possibilities for people being able to customize the maps how you want. Because obviously you've always been able to export them to draw and alter them in there, or indeed in artworks. But it's quite fiddly if you're wanting to alter a lot of different objects, because you'll find if you've ever tried doing that, the maps are very complicated and the draw files have a lot of objects in order to render areas of the countryside. So those are really the a glimpse of some of the features which are coming along and some of the things that I've wanted to demonstrate in the past that you might not have been familiar with. If there are any questions or suggestions now, we've got maybe almost 5 minutes before the next talk. So please do pop up your hand, and we've got a roving microphone so everyone will be able to hear.
Would it be possible to export directly to PDF?
Export direct to PDF. That's a good question. I think the answer is probably we're not intending to implement that because I don't know anything about PDF generation, and there are quite a lot of things that we'd like to do which you can't get around any other way. At the moment, you can use the printing feature, except of course I've not got a printer driver running. But you know, if you've got print PDF set up, then you can go through that route, and that works fine. If we were wanting to create PDFs direct, what I would want to see in that is an enhancement to how the maps are rendered in PDF to take full advantage of a different format, and that might be to be able to do that. We'd want to alter how the rendering engine in the map software works, so that RiscOSM could be more versatile. Another thing that people have suggested in the past is, could we export in a format that's compatible with Vector or Draw Plus, where they have layers, so that you'd then be able to manipulate stuff within your chosen vector editor, but in a more sophisticated way than you can do in Draw. Now, again, that's a really good idea. We've got some of the documentation which would allow us to create that, but we'll have to rebuild the map rendering engine to allow it to create things in different ways. Now, when we do that work, that could open up a lot of possibilities. It would be really nice, for example, to be able to render the map in one style and also in another style and have both of them open on the screen. At the moment, RiscOSM can only do one map at a time in one style. So some of these pieces of work, when we summon up the energy to do them, will open up lots of other possibilities. So yes, those are things we're thinking of. Someone asked Hilary, you know, had she got many ideas for future developments? We have a text file somewhere with ideas of things to improve, which is about 10 screens long. Do please tell us of anything that you think well, even if you think we've thought of it already, it'd be really lovely to know what you'd like, because, you know, otherwise we just sort of pick what we fancy doing, which has worked okay so far, but, you know, we do like to feel we're improving it in the way people want. So, any other questions? No? Good. Okay. Well, I'll turn off and return the computers to the stand where Hilary has been having to demonstrate it with no software whatsoever.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you.